Welcome to Man in America, a voice of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. We just witnessed what I would call a JFK 2.0 moment, an event that was traumatic, I think beyond belief, especially for the younger generation that didn't live through JFK, didn't live through 9/11. They've never experienced a mass trauma event like this. And I purposely didn't do a show last night after it just happened, though I wanted to, because I wanted to take some time and reflect. And also, I was deeply disturbed by the events yesterday. When I initially saw the far away video of Charlie, getting shot and seeing his body react to being shot and seeing him fall over, I couldn't tell. Obviously, it looked like it was a bad shot, but I didn't know what the details of it were. Was it life-threatening? And about 20 minutes later, I saw the close-up video where you could see that he got shot and it was a very bad neck wound. I'm not going to play the video. I think it's been overplayed for way too much. But when I saw that and I saw the amount of blood, and I'm not a doctor, but I knew that there's a very, very small chance of someone surviving that. It was horrific. And obviously he didn't survive and he passed. And it felt particularly hard and disturbing for me for a few reasons. One is he's a young man, and no one likes to see people die at that age, especially in that manner. But also, he's in his 30s like I am. He is, in some ways in a similar career that I am. He's got 2 young children like I do. And it felt like it really, really hit home. And I've met him. I've interviewed him. I've met him backstage at events. And here he is here's a picture of him with his kids. He's got a 1-year-old that's 2 months, I think, younger than my 1-year-old. He's got a 3-year-old. I've got a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. And all day today, I just kept thinking that these children are walking around the house saying, "Where's Daddy?" And their poor mother has to answer that question and say, "Daddy's not here anymore." And again, maybe if I didn't have kids and I wasn't living a life so similar, it would affect me differently. But it affected me more than really any event like this that I've ever experienced. 9/11 happened when I was young. We've seen a lot of celebrities and important people pass, but this felt different. It felt very, very different. And so tonight's show, I want to give a little bit of my own recap, but it's a much bigger show than that, because as I've reflected on this, and I've seen, go on the Twitter or social media, and there's a million different theories going around. Was it an AI video? Was it a fake assassination? Was it Israel? Was it a trans shooter? There's all these different theories online, and tonight's show is not about those theories. Tonight's show is not about that. Maybe next week, after some more recent information's come out, I'll do a show like that. Like, when Trump was shot in the ear in Butler, I did 4 or 5 shows uncovering what really went on there. And I might do that with this, but this just feels so different. And when I take the bigger step back and I see the patterns, that's what I want to focus on right now, because his death was not just the death of a single man. It was a public execution intended for the world to see. They could have killed him any number of ways. It would have been much easier to have him get in a car accident or have some sort of medical emergency. There's so many ways. Someone could have broken into his home. There's so many ways that he could have actually been assassinated, but why do it in the manner that it was done? There's a much bigger thing that's going on right here. And this is coming off the heels of the stabbing, the violent stabbing and murder of the Ukrainian woman, Irina, that we just saw. And actually, my show that I was going to do last night was that deep dive into that and pointing out all the crazy things I was seeing and getting into MK Ultra and mind control. And there's so much more to dig into with that. But then this happened, and it just has changed everything. And so tonight's show is going to be about looking at the patterns and looking at the bigger picture of what I'm worried about, what is happening here in America. Because I don't think that this was just an isolated event. I think it was absolutely part of orchestrated chaos, synchronized chaos. And that's what I'm going to be getting into today. And so for the first time ever, I've got my notes for my show, and I put together a whole presentation even. I've got probably 40 slides to go through and a lot of information. And so it's going to be a different style of show. It's not going to be just me sitting up and showing a few websites. It's going to be really walking you through something and walking you through the patterns of what I see happening in America and what I'm concerned is coming next. And that's why I titled this show, An Urgent Warning to America. Because as you'll see, when you watch this show and as you get through and I kind of point out the research, there's a much bigger plan that's happening in place right now. And I want to help show you that plan so you can see it for what it is, so you don't get sucked into it, and so you can help more people see it as well. And so I'll tell you, for one, if this video is impactful for you, please share it. Please, please, please share this video. We have to get this out because what's unraveling in America affects every single one of us, and it's very, very sinister, as I will show you. But I want to just ask you, and just see what you feel. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the live chat. How do you feel right now about life in America? I mean, really, like, do you feel excited? Do you think the economy is booming? Do you feel secure? Do you feel like, more stress-free? Do you feel safe? That's how I felt back in, say, 2016, 2017, 2018, up until the pandemic. I think the pandemic changed a lot of things. It changed the fabric of our society. I think it was very intentional. But when I look and I ask myself, honestly, if I look in the mirror and I say, Seth, how do you really feel right now in this country? I feel stress. I feel tension. I don't feel that safe. I mean, I live in a safe region, but I feel like there's increased threats almost every day that we're seeing. I feel like the divide that is happening in this country between the left and the right, between blacks and whites, between straights and gays and trans, I feel like the class warfare that's happening here in America has reached levels that I've never experienced in this country. And these are all part of the pattern, which I'll be talking about. I think also that we also are seeing massive distrust in the media, distrust in the institutions, distrust in the leaders, distrust in our own families, distrust in the elders. The young people don't trust the elders. They don't trust their parents. The parents don't trust the children. The fabric of our society is ripping, and it's serious. It's very, very serious. And this show is, I know a lot of my shows are serious, but this is a particularly sober analysis of where we're at, because our country is, I think unless we can make some sort of rapid and radical change, our country is heading into chaos. Like, it really feels to me like that we're at the end of the empire stage. Whether you're looking at the currency, whether you're looking at the moral fabric, the family unit, the tension among the people within this country. There's no unity in this country anymore. You've got pockets of unity, and those are inspiring to me. You have people that are coming together and forming communities and strengthening themselves, but you've also got massive, massive division. So this is why I think I want to look at where America's at right now in history, because it's easy for us to get caught up in the weeds, right? You go on the Twitter. Twitter's like the weeds. You go on the Twitter and everyone's caught up in the weeds. Oh, look what I found here. And look at this. Look at Charlie Kirk's ring. Is it AI? Look at this. What's this black thing on his shirt? Everyone's in the weeds. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Sometimes you find the right thing in the weeds, but I think it's important to take that 100,000 foot view, because I don't think that all of this unrest and this tension and the divide, I don't think it's random. I think it's absolutely coordinated. I think it's systematic. It's a pattern. It's a carefully engineered pattern that's being played out in our country. And it's a playbook. It's happened in so many countries and so many empires before us, the same playbook, which we'll be getting into today. And my concern is that we are at completion of a major stage of that playbook, entering into the next stage, which I'll get into. And I think that some people say that, oh, we're watching a movie. It's a script, right? I do think to a certain degree that's true, but I don't think it's some white hat script. I think it's the script of Satan. We're watching Satan's plan, Satan's script of how to collapse this nation and how to bring the world into darkness. Now, ultimately, I believe that God has a script that overwrites that script, but this world in many ways is still being dictated by what Satan has control over, which is quite a lot in this world. And so when we're looking at the assassination of Charlie Kirk, right? This man right here. I'm not going to play any of the videos of the actual assassination. You've probably seen enough of them on social media, and I can't stomach to see it anymore. It's too disturbing for me. But when you look at this, what's happened to him, what is the bigger picture of it? Why was it carried out in the way that it was? The same as JFK. And from my own assessment, though, yes, I think that the shooter could have hypothetically been some young, radicalized kid with a deer rifle. It's 200 yards. It's not that difficult of a shot if you've got a decent rifle and a decent scope and you've practiced. But if you look at the coordination, you look at the distractions of the guy, the one older man being arrested saying he was a shooter, then someone else, you look at all the coordination, the fact that the guy was able to get away, it points to a much larger, much more organized assassination. But I want to start with getting into the actual presentation here. I want to start with a quote from Saul Alinsky. Right, this is the mentor of Obama and Hillary. He was the author of a book called Rules for Radicals. He's a communist. And his whole thing was basically how to destabilize and overthrow, how to create revolution in countries. He said the real action is in the enemy's reaction. And this is the key. The real action is in the enemy's reaction. This is why it was a public spectacle. This is why he was assassinated for the entire public to see. Because the real action wasn't to kill Charlie Kirk. The real action was to create the reaction that we're now seeing here in America, where we have major conservative accounts calling for civil war, where we have the left celebrating, not the whole left, right? I have a lot of people that are liberal that are not celebrating. We have a lot of people, though, on Blue Sky or TikTok that are celebrating the death of this young man. So again, the real action is the enemy's reaction. But I want to take a look at what this is, because this is what you would consider a mass trauma event. That's what I experienced when I watched that video and I saw him bleed out after that bullet went through his neck. Maybe you did too. It was a mass trauma event. It was a trauma that we experienced together. So what is a mass trauma event? A mass trauma event is an incident, whether it's a natural disaster, a terror attack, an assassination, a school shooting, a war atrocity, that's widely witnessed either directly or through media and social media. And it causes an intense emotional shock across a large population. It doesn't just traumatize individuals, it reshapes collective perception, identity, and behavior. And what we just witnessed with the assassination of Charlie Kirk was a mass trauma event. And then you add into that the fuel of social media. I mean, literally, like my entire, all day yesterday and half the day today, my entire Twitter feed is still filled with videos of Charlie Kirk being assassinated. I mean, you say it's JFK 2.0. This is JFK on steroids. I mean, JFK people watched the event on live television, and then it was over. Maybe they saw it replayed in the evening news that night, but that's it. They turned the TV off. They went to their families and they connected. That's not happening with this. Every time you open your social media app, which for a lot of people is Twitter, it's social media or X, all you're seeing is the repeat video of this. It's mass trauma event again on steroids. Right? Everyone knows this scene. JFK being shot. This is etched into the memory of so many Americans. I wasn't alive at that time, but my mom still tells me, Seth, I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly what happened. That's what happens, right? When this event happens, imprints. 9/11. For me, I was in middle school, I think I was in high school. Yeah, I was in high school at that point. I think I was a sophomore, doesn't matter, freshman, sophomore. I remember exactly where I was when it happened. I remember what class I was in, what teacher I had. I think I was out in the hallway. Actually, yeah, when it happened, I think I was out in the hallway because I was in trouble. Imagine that. And then you have this. You have the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I remember this is something 10 or 20 years from now, you ask me, Seth, where were you on the day this happened? I'll remember exactly where it was, as you will too. That's what a mass trauma event is. This is a psychological effect it has on people, okay? It activates the fight or flight. So exposure to the graphic violence or the sudden catastrophe floods the nervous system with adrenaline and cortisol. That creates hypervigilance, fear, and emotional imprinting. That's exactly where I've been. The state that I've been in the last 24 hours is exactly that. Hypervigilance. I can't say it's fear as much, but emotional imprinting, like visceral gut emotional imprinting. That's what this does. Creates flashbulb memories. Here you go. Events like the JFK assassination, 9/11 create the where were you when this happened memories. They etch themselves into the brain's amygdala, the amygdala hippocampus network. It makes them unforgettable. And if you understand brainwashing, if you understand social engineering, you absolutely understand how powerful these events are. And that's why we have to pay attention to it. Let's not get too focused on the event itself. Look at the reaction to it. This was a mass trauma event. Very, very powerful. But what happens though is suggestibility increases. So when people are in shock, their critical thinking is bypassed. Traumatized brains become more open to authority, narrative framing, and groupthink because they're looking for safety and meaning. How is it after 9/11, so many of us, even a lot of the conservatives, were fine with the Patriot Act being shoved through? Something that we never would have allowed before then. This is it right here. So what are the collective and societal effects of this? A shared identity through trauma. So whole generations are defined by mass trauma events. The boomers, it's JFK. The millennials, myself, it's 9/11. Gen Z, it's the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It creates this we all went through this together bond that the governments and the media can and will exploit. It serves as an emotional reset button. A shocking event can break existing norms or resistance. After 9/11, policies that would have been unthinkable before, the Patriot Act, TSAs, mass surveillance, became accepted under the banner of safety. Media amplification. Repetition of traumatic imagery, planes hitting towers, shootings on loop, reinforces the fear state. This constant re-exposure prevents the nervous system from processing the trauma normally, keeping the public in a state of chronic anxiety. And this is like, I'm talking to you right now, watching and listening to this show. This is happening to us right now. We're seeing it. The repetition of the traumatic imagery, the shootings on loop. Every time you open your social media app, it's looped. All you see is the video of Charlie Kirk being assassinated. This constant re-exposure prevents the nervous system from processing the trauma normally, keeping the public in chronic anxiety. How do you feel right now? I'm still in a state I would consider chronic anxiety. I mean, I've had a decent day. I was very focused on my work today, focused on putting the show together. I still enjoyed my time with my girls today, but there's an underlying tension inside of me. It's still there. It's still there. So let's look at the brainwashing and the conditioning angle. Mass trauma is a cornerstone of psychological operation, psyops, and social engineering. 3 parts: shock, suggestion, control. Shock, a horrific event destabilizes people emotionally. Suggestion, authorities or media immediately supply an explanation and solution. Control, the public, desperate for safety, accepts policies or narratives they would normally resist. We have to be careful because this is going to start emerging. I'm seeing, after the trans shooting in the Catholic school that happened, was it like a week or 2 ago, that there's people saying trans people shouldn't own guns. So wait, now the same people that were so pro Second Amendment, these rights shall not be infringed, are saying, well, if you're trans, you shouldn't have a gun. I'm even seeing people now saying that anybody on social media that celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk should be banned for life from social media. And be very, very careful, because conservatives who have been censored and mocked for their beliefs in the Second Amendment are now the ones, some of them, not all, that are calling for censorship, that are calling for increased restrictions on gun ownership. We're seeing this play out. We're seeing it absolutely play out. Okay, what we're seeing, it's a problem reaction solution. So it's the Hegelian dialectic. Problem, a traumatic event occurs. Reaction, public outcry, fear, demand for action, solution. Pre-planned policy, war, or social shift is introduced under the cover of necessity. Pre-planned policy. I wonder how they wrote that entire Patriot Act so quickly after 9/11. It's almost like they knew it was going to happen ahead of time. And again, repetition of trauma over time, repeated exposure to collective trauma, shootings, terror alerts, pandemics creates learned helplessness, a belief that individuals can't change anything and can only submit. So here's why it works so powerfully. It's because trauma bypasses rational analysis. It anchors emotions to specific symbols, a flag, a leader, an ideology, and it creates generational scars that shape voting, culture, and even faith for decades. So in summary, a mass trauma event is not just a tragedy. It's a psychological flashpoint that imprints itself onto individuals and entire society. From a brainwashing perspective, it's the perfect tool. It shocks people out of critical thinking, makes them cling to authority, and paves the way for massive cultural or political change. I'm curious. Obviously, we're only a day and a half into this. Are we going to see a lot of conservatives calling for Trump to move the military into cities, to bring about martial law, to start editing our gun laws, to bring back censorship for those we don't agree with? We have to be very, very careful about what happens here. But the mass trauma event is just part of a much larger plan. So we have the pattern I'm kind of going to be getting into right now. So first I want to take a step back from the assassination of Charlie and look at it not as, the brutal death of an individual person, but look at it as a mass trauma event that was planned to be that way. Now let's see, how does that fit into the much larger plan that's playing out here? Because what I'm going to discuss today is the three-stage collapse of nations. This is a playbook. It's a playbook that has been used and witnessed and experienced over and over and over again throughout history, whether it was in Rome, whether it was in the Spanish Civil War, happened in Italy. This same playbook has happened over and over and over again. And the three-stage collapse is exactly what I think is happening right here in America. And this is the warning that I have for our country, is that we are in a planned and engineered three-stage collapse of our society that ends in authoritarian, tyrannical rule. And if we're not careful and we're not aware of it, and we're not paying attention, if we're not level-headed, we will walk right into that trap. So I'm going to start with a movie called Leave the World Behind. This came out a couple of years ago. This is what I would say is the pinnacle of predictive programming, where they tell us ahead of time what they're doing. This movie actually is a really well-done movie. I recommend watching it, even though there's some woke stuff in it, and it was produced by the Obamas, which is kind of strange, right? There's some powerful messaging in here. But I'm going to play a clip for you from this movie. So just see, if you haven't seen the movie is basically you're witnessing a series of events that will take America from a normal, stable society into a state of civil war by following the three-stage collapse. Three-stage plan for collapse. And in this video I'm going to play for you, about 2 minutes long or so, from the movie, it's one of the characters actually describes exactly what this three-stage collapse is. So I'll play this for you right quick. Again, it's about 3 minutes. I'll full screen it so you can see it better.
GH, what's going on?
Before we go, I need to know that you're on the level with me. No matter how far this thing goes, I need to know that we're good. Because if what just happened here is happening everywhere, we need to get to that bunker Danny told us about, and we need to get there now.
What are you talking about? You know something.
I had a sneaking suspicion, but I wanted more information first. All the signs were there, sure, but I didn't want to scare anyone. You'd have called me crazy because it is crazy. It would have made more sense if we were on the brink of an all-out invasion. But this... I didn't think we'd actually let something like this happen. I thought we were smarter than that.
What happened?
Because my primary client works in the defense sector, I spent a lot of time studying the cost-benefit analysis of military campaigns. There was one program in particular that terrified my client the most. A simple three-stage maneuver that could topple a country's government from within. First stage was isolation. Disable their communication and transportation. Make the target as deaf, dumb, and paralyzed as possible, setting them up for the second stage. Synchronized chaos. Terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation. Overwhelming their defense capabilities, leaving their weapon systems vulnerable to extremists in their own military. Without a clear enemy or motive, people would start turning on each other. Done successfully, the third stage would happen on its own.
What's the third stage?
A coup d'etat. Civil war. Collapse. This program was considered the most cost-effective way to destabilize a country. Because if the target nation was dysfunctional enough, it would, in essence, do the work for you. Whoever started this wants us to finish it.
I don't know about you, but that sent chills down my spine. And look, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to do this to be a doomsdayer. I'm trying to show you the patterns and what I'm seeing. And you can make up your own decision. If you think I'm just some crazy black pillar that is living in my basement, full of conspiracy theories, that's okay. But there's some part of me that won't ignore this that's happening. And that's why I'm doing this show. My show reaches millions and millions of people. So if I can get this message out to more people, we can prevent this. That's the thing, is that we have to be aware of it. So I'm going to start looking at, we're going to dig into analyzing, what does this look like? What is this the three-stage collapse of nations? Here it is. Throughout history, nations have been destabilized through a repeatable three-stage process: isolation, synchronized chaos, and civil war with authoritarian reset. The stages are not random. They are systematic methods of breaking down societies in order to rebuild them under tighter control. Once you see the pattern, you can recognize it again and again across history. Now, I could have done an extra half-hour segment of just going over case studies, whether it was the Spanish Civil War or Rome or Yugoslavia or China or Russia. You see it, the same pattern over and over and over again. And I'm seeing the same pattern play out here in America, which we'll get into in the second part of this presentation. First step, isolation. You break people apart so they no longer trust or rely on one another. Methods, family breakdown, division by class, race, generation, or ideology. The effect, once people are atomized, they become easier to manipulate. Stage 2, synchronized chaos. The goal is you overwhelm the public with constant destabilizing shocks. How do you do this? Street violence, assassinations, terror attacks, economic collapse, cultural and civil unrest. The effect is if the events are isolated, the perception of chaos everywhere paralyzes society and drives people into fear. Stage 3, civil war/authoritarian reset. The goal is to push a fractured, chaotic nation over the edge and then impose a new order. Methods, civil war, coups, or crackdowns dressed up as restoring order. The effect? Once a society is broken, the elites step in with their solutions that strip the freedoms and a centralized power. Or you have a military coup. Okay, so the summary of this framework. Stage 1, isolation destroys trust and unity. Stage 2, chaos overwhelms the mind and destabilizes society. Stage 3, civil war/reset clears the slate for authoritarian solutions. The same script has been used repeatedly across history. Once you know the framework, you can see when it's being deployed again. I want to take a step back and look at the movie. I'm not going to play the video again, but the movie that we just, I'll pull the image up for you again. Leave the World Behind. This was it was produced, I think the executive producers, or I forget what the role they had, but Michelle and Barack Obama were highly involved in this. Under Trump, what a lot of us had thought was happening already, we're now seeing it come out again that they were staging a coup, that we have elements of our own government that had stolen elections, that were complicit in the COVID pandemic, and so much more. There's a massive deep state that wants to destroy America. And I think a lot of people think that, Trump got in, he's going to take care of it, he's going to fight the deep state. But even if he's absolutely trying to fight the deep state and he's 100% on the side of the good guys, we're still up against an enemy. So the Obamas, they're still out there. We haven't seen any arrests. So all the people that we saw were working to collude and to undermine our justice system and to weaponize it against people and to come after conservatives and patriots as extremists. These people are still out there. The Soroses and the elite banking families, they're still out there, and their goal hasn't changed. Like, it's not like, well, Trump is in now, so let's go ahead and take that, this 100-year goal to collapse and overthrow America. Let's just kind of take it and scrap it. The CCP, the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, there are so many enemies that want to see America collapse. And I think a lot of them are working in conjunction, side by side, even competing to see who can bring America to its knees and take over. So continue. Okay, so I walked you through the 3-stage collapse. Now, let's look at where America is in this process. Step 1, isolation. In the movie, the isolation came through some sort of EMP, grid down scenario, communication was cut. That could very well be coming. But just looking at this, look at the isolation on a personal level. The pandemic lockdowns, it fractured families. It left millions and millions of people isolated and depressed. We are now, people in America, I would say, are the loneliest and the most isolated they've ever been in the history of this country right now. The generational divides are deeper than ever. It's the youth versus the parents. We've got the men versus the women, the left versus the right, the blacks versus the white. Our society is fragmented into so many groups right now. Even among the conservatives, you have the pro-Israel and the anti-Israel. You have the Q followers and the ones that think they're all crazy. You have massive divisions even within the conservative movement, let alone all the other different segments of society. The social and corporate media have created echo chambers so extreme that Americans live in entirely separate realities. You'd say you have Twitter, X, which I'd say has become much more conservative under Elon Musk, but you have Blue Sky. Go hop over to Blue Sky. It's the inverse world of what you see on Twitter. On Twitter, you see a video going viral of someone mourning for Charlie Kirk. On Blue Sky, the videos going viral are those celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. You have echo chambers. Like 30, 40, 50 years ago, most families still shared the same evening news. Like, you would watch the evening news as a family, Walter Cronkite or Barbara Walters interview, and you'd go to work the next day and you'd talk about it with your colleagues, and that's how it was. There was a commonality between the American people that doesn't exist anymore. Today, there is no shared truth or common ground anymore. Unfortunately, there is not. The isolation stage is near complete in America. And if they cut our communication, if they do what you saw in the movie, and all of a sudden our phones don't work or the internet's down, we're in a bad place. This image right here, this is the isolation they created. And it still is having an effect to this day. The image of the woman looking through the glass to her elderly mother, probably. They can't even touch each other. They can't hug each other because they were separated for our own safety. The entire pandemic was a giant psychological operation. It was all about the first stage of creating isolation and separating us. Stage 2, synchronized chaos in America. This is where I think that we are right now. Is we're entering into the really kind of the key parts of the synchronized chaos in America. Daily violence floods social media feeds, assaults, riots, murders, now political assassinations. Racial tensions are constantly inflamed. High-profile cases pitting blacks against whites are amplified for maximum division. Cultural conflicts are weaponized. School shootings are tied to identity debates, trans versus traditional battles everywhere in the media. On top of that, we have the natural disasters, the weaponization of the weather, hurricanes, wildfires, floods. They're politicized. They're woven into the chaos narrative. And then we have the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which was staged as a public trauma event, a mass trauma event deliberately designed for maximum shock, echoing the past spectacles like JFK. The chaos stage is accelerating right now. And this is where I think that we are right now. I unfortunately, and I hope I'm wrong, I think we're going to start seeing more things happen like what just happened to Charlie Kirk. Because look at the entire plan. Look at all the planning that went into the isolation stage. Look at what they did with the pandemic here in America. The people behind that, no one's been arrested. Do you think they just gave up their plan? And they're like, well, yeah, okay, it didn't work. No, they're still continuing. And we're seeing it, the synchronized chaos. And you look at Twitter, it's amplifying it. I mean, look, before the Charlie Kirk thing, all I saw was the video of the arena being stabbed. Before that, all you saw was the video of the trans shooter that went out. This is now what is filling our news feeds. And think about even the past couple of weeks. What have we've had happen? We had a trans shooter shooting up kids in a Catholic school. Then we had a very, very violent murder of an innocent young woman by a black man. I mean, just today in the news feed, I was, an hour or two ago, I just saw this. Viewer discretion advised. The Laura Loomer shared this. Cuban illegal alien beheads Indian American hotel manager in Dallas, Texas. It's a video of some illegal beheading a man in the parking lot of a hotel in Texas. Like, this stuff wasn't happening 10, 20 years ago, but now it's everywhere you look. And I think it's all part of the plan. And then you've got this. You have what I would say is an icon of American conservatism, especially for the younger generations. Gen Z, who had lost everything. These are the ones that grew up. They were in their formative years during COVID. They're broken. They're alone. And you've got them being forced to witness the assassination of one of their heroes for the conservative Gen Zers. This is absolutely significant. So stage 3, civil war, reset in America. Civil war is being openly seeded in culture and media. Predictive programming with films like Civil War, right? Leave the World Behind. They're showing us what they want coming here. Influencers with massive audience are now openly talking about civil war in response to the assassination. And the influencers are also using the assassination to create massive political divide. It's the left's fault. It's the left. It's the left. It's the trans. I'm seeing it. So the danger is not just a spontaneous conflict. It's that the elites will use this civil unrest as a gateway to authoritarian control. So let me go and pass through. Look at these are just a couple of tweets from very, very big and important accounts. Andrew Tate, right? As of when I screenshot this, he had 12 million impressions. He just wrote Civil War. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire said it's either peaceful separation or civil war. Right-wing and left-wing Americans cannot coexist together. Here's James Woods, massive account on Twitter, millions of followers. He says, well said, this is the turning point. Dear leftists, we can have a conversation or a civil war. One more shot from your side and you will not get into this choice. You will not get this choice again. Here's two more big accounts. Amiri King says, we cannot coexist. This is an established fact. We either need a national divorce or a civil war. These are the only solutions. I welcome the latter. Brian Eastwood says, Charlie Kirk getting shot is a shot heard around the country. I'm ready for civil war. You want to fight and you're going to get it. And one thing that I think that people don't quite understand about what happens when a civil war breaks out in America. There's this kind of like this very naive belief that if civil war breaks out in America, that the conservatives who have all the guns, that they're going to defeat the leftists and they're going to reclaim control of this country and we're going to get rid of this woke ideology and America is going to return to being this great nation again because the Patriots took it back. That's not how it will play out. Unfortunately, if there is civil war in America, you know what's going to happen? Every enemy around the world that has been waiting to take America down will take advantage of that operation. I guarantee it. If you see civil war in America, there's going to be a coup. Probably there's going to be military coups happening of corrupt elements of the military. They're going to try seizing control. You're going to have the FEMA camps reactivated. They're going to be using those. You're going to see Chinese troops invading. Maybe you're going to see Russian troops invading. Maybe you're going to see IDF soldiers on the ground. Maybe you're going to see UN soldiers on the ground. If there's a civil war in America, what that communicates to the entire rest of the world is the exact same thing of what happens when a gazelle breaks its leg when it's running through the prairie in Africa. All the lions, all the hyenas that have been hunting and waiting for the opportunity are going to see that downed animal and they're going to all eat that animal for dinner, and the animal has no way of defending itself. So all these people that are openly calling for civil war, either A, they're part of some plan, like they're part of the plan to achieve civil war because they're being backed by foreign interests or whatever, or B, they're just naive as to what really the outcome is if there's a civil war in America. And so let's look at where we are now in this three-step process. Stage one, isolation. I'd say it's basically achieved. If they want to bring down our communication grid, look, I've done extensive interviews and research on EMPs, and it's so easy to collapse our communication grid overnight in a second in America. Done. If they wanted to do that. But then maybe they don't even need to because we've done it ourselves. We become so engrossed in our phones and our social medias and our ideologies that we are no longer a united country. We are a divided country. So where we are too, stage two, synchronized chaos, unfolding daily, now reaching mass trauma events. I worry it will get much worse. It's my sincere concern that we're now entering into the synchronized chaos stage. I can feel it. I'm not sure if you can. I can feel it. Stage three, civil war. It's being seeded with calls to action already growing louder. America is caught between stage two and stage three, the danger zone where panic, rage, and trauma can be weaponized to complete the cycle. And this is where we are. I think that we're hovering, we're touching on the edge of stage three. We're hovering right in the middle of that stage two of synchronized chaos. The takeaway, the three-stage collapse is not a theory. It's a proven framework used throughout history. The assassination of Charlie Kirk shows that America is now fully inside the second stage, synchronized chaos. If the pattern is not recognized and resisted, the United States will be maneuvered into stage 3, civil war and authoritarian reset. The lesson of history is clear. Once this stage is reached, freedom rarely survives. That's the thing. Again, if you go back in history and you see whether it's the Spanish War, Civil War, they had 40 years of dictatorship after that. When Rome fell, same thing. You look at what's happened to all these different countries that have fallen through this 3-stage collapse system. They don't become free societies because they got rid of all the bad people. The bad people seize the opportunity and take control. And so as we're wrapping up, the important question is, how do we stop the collapse? I never want to just bring you all the bad news. I want to say, okay, here's what it is. Let's take a sober look at it together. But here's how we can stop it. The first thing, and this is why I'm doing this video, and this is why I'm asking you to share it, because the first step is to recognize the trap, to recognize the system wants conservatives angry, violent, and out of control. The system wants liberals angry, violent, and out of control. The system wants us to think it's the guy with the Joe Biden sign or the blue hair that is our enemy, when it's not. The enemy are much, much more powerful elite families, billionaire classes, foreign governments, intelligence agencies, the deep state, the military-industrial complex. That's the real enemy. And when they can trap us in this kind of class struggle, and when they can divide our country so much that when a young man is murdered, is executed on stage for the world to see, you have a large chunk of the country cheering it on, and you have a large chunk of the country over here calling for civil war. That's exactly what they want. So for all the people that have been up against the elites, and we're going to expose the elites, and we're going to be, pro-constitution, pro-freedom, they're being played right into the trap. It's what's happening. Recognize the trap. Violence will only give them the excuse for surveillance, crackdowns, and martial law. That's it. If there is violence, if people start going after political figures, whatever it is, that will only give them the excuse to bring in more surveillance, more crackdowns, and martial law. Discipline is the weapon. We must refuse to play the role that they have scripted for us. And we must share this message. We must help our fellow Americans see the trap. So right now, as you're watching right now, just take a moment. I'll give you a second. Copy the link that you're watching and share it with somebody. Just say, please watch this. Please. We have to get this message. We have to allow our fellow Americans to recognize the trap. We have to come together as Americans. Because if we can't, united we stand, divided we fall. We must anchor ourselves in faith and morality. When you realize that we're up against Satan in here, to me, this is the way. Ground yourself and your family in prayer, faith, and moral clarity. Trauma and chaos are meant to shake our foundations, but faith, it builds resilience. It gives you the strength to see this and not be moved by it and see through it and be level-headed and not react to it, not be out there on Twitter calling for civil war. We have to have the moral clarity. Because remember, we fight with truth. We fight the evil with truth, courage, and righteousness, not with blind rage. And I'm not saying that we should all be pacifists. Like, I own guns. I know how to use them, right? So if the time comes that we have to defend ourselves or defend our families, okay, yes, but not with blind rage. That's exactly playing into their trap. We need to prepare. I've talked a lot about this. I'm continuing. I've got a book coming out. I've got a community I'm building, which I'll talk about in a little bit here. We have to prepare. Okay, stockpile the essentials: food, clean water, energy, ammunition, medicine, build redundancy, power backups, water filters, alternative communications. Preparation is not fear, it's freedom. The more self-sufficient you are, the less control they have over you. You got to build strong communities. No one survives isolation. Find your people and strengthen your local networks. Share your skills, share your resources, train together, worship together. A strong local community is harder to fracture and control from above. A strong family unit, the same thing. Strengthen your family, strengthen your immediate community, build these relationships with those people around you. I'll talk about, once I'm concluding, I'll talk about the community that I'm building, the ARC community, which I'll get into just a short mention of it at the end of this, because it's really, really important. Guard your mind. Be aware of psychological warfare. Trauma events are designed to control your perception. Limit your exposure to the endless doom scrolling. It keeps you trapped in fear. Choose what you feed your mind. Scripture, truth, sources you trust, friends, family. Build parallel systems. Start building parallel structures outside of this collapsing system. Education, homeschool, local community schools that you know and you trust. The economy. Support your local farmers, the small businesses, alternative currencies. Media, seek the truth outside of the corporate controlled outlets. And honestly, seek the truth outside of the doom scroll of Twitter, which is absolutely a massive psychological operation, I think, especially targeting conservatives. Because the future belongs to those who opt out of the system and build something together. So the path forward, we can't stop every storm, but we can decide how we're going to weather it. We have to refuse to descend into chaos. That is the trap. So prepare your home, protect your family, and strengthen your faith. Build networks of resilience and truth that can withstand the collapse. If enough of us do this, the plan to break America will fail, and a stronger nation will rise from the ashes. And I believe that. I really believe that. But we have to do it together. And I'm going to be, again, I mentioned I've got a book coming out on prepping, Prep Like Noah, which I should have the kind of pre-order link up in the next couple of weeks or so. We're finally moving forward with kind of finalizing it. There's a lot of bigger projects. But don't just wait for a book. I mean, do your own study, do your own research. Not out of fear, right? Don't get into like this doomsday prepping out of fear. Do it out of your own responsibility to God, to our nation, to your family. Build your local communities. That's key. Build your local communities. Local farmers, right? Build these support systems. Don't rely on like getting your groceries from Walmart every time. Like figure out where you can get these things, because the more centralized those systems are, the more they can use them to control us. Currency, finance. If you've got all your money sitting in the stock market or in your bank accounts, I'd recommend pulling some of it out. Get some gold and some silver. Right? Put that money into some land. And, put it into real assets. Put it into food. If you have some extra money sitting in your bank account doing nothing, buy some food. Okay, we can tell you it's only going to get more expensive. You buy it now, you're going to have it now. But we have to be prepared. We have to. And look, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that everything that I've presented to you so far is actually not going to happen. Maybe these are just random events, and the synchronized chaos is just random events that's reflective of the moral decay of our society. Which, if that's the case, I still worry about where it's headed. But unfortunately, if you study history, you see the same patterns over and over again. And I'm concerned that the enemies that have been trying to take America down, they're not sleeping. They didn't go into hibernation because Trump got into office. They're trying to figure out how they can collapse the nation underneath Trump. Or wait until another, couple of years and he's out and the next guy comes in. Doesn't matter. But also I mentioned to you that I'm building a community. So building a community called the ARC community. And basically what it is it's a private network for those who cherish faith, family, and freedom that you can learn, connect, and prepare for uncertain times together. So it's in beta stage right now. We've got a handful of people that are kind of our pillars of our community. They're doing some testing. But what the ARC community is it's going to be a place where you can connect with all the people that share your same worldview, people that are experts in preparedness. We've got forums, we've got video training libraries, there's going to be training modules. The whole purpose of it is to help you to become more prepared and to build a community. We've got chapters. There's 8 different chapters in America. So say you're in Florida, okay, you join your chapter that fits into your region. So that way you can meet up with other local people that have the same ideas of you. So say you want to learn about solar. Well, where do you go? Do you go to YouTube? Well, actually, the community is going to have that for you. We're going to have experts that understand solar that can teach you solar. We're going to have training videos on there. There's going to be a whole section of prayer requests. So if you want to come on here and ask for some support with something and say, hey, can you please pray for me? I'm going through some struggles here. There's going to be a place for that. So it's kind of like, imagine it's almost like a social media platform, but it's private. It's only for the members that are there. And it's going to be something that, you can't just kind of wander into it. There's some, kind of ways we're keeping it very private and secure. but it's going to be a place that you can come in and you can learn, you can connect with people, you can build relationships. So if you want to be notified when this community is ready, I think that we're going to be launching, we're opening up the doors for like the first batch of people to come in, like kind of like the general public to come in and start using it in the next few weeks. So if you want to be notified and learn more about it, just go to buildtheark.com, which is also in the description. Buildtheark.com, just put in your name and your email and click on join the waitlist, and we'll notify you as soon as it's ready. I'm really excited about this, actually. This is like beyond exciting for me to build this community, because what I've seen is a lot of people that think like you and I do, but are very isolated, and they're just waiting to find other people they can rely on, that they can teach them. And so, and also if you're seasoned, if you're an experienced prepper or gardener, or you know how to raise chickens, or you know how to, look at medicine, emergency medicine, or whatever it is, we want your skills in there too. So please join so you can help others. And the key, though, is that it's all about building the offline relationships. It's not about creating some more social media platform. No, it's about using this to connect with people. That way you can exchange your cell phones, your satellite phones, your ham radio call signals. You can meet up local. We're going to start doing local events. So if you want to be part of that, again, go to buildtheark.com and put in your name and your email, and we will email you as soon as it's opening up for the first batch of people. And you can be one of the first people to come through the doors and board the Ark with us. It's very exciting. So, in conclusion, I hope this wasn't too dark and dystopian, but maybe it's a good thing if it was. Maybe it's a good thing if you walk away and you think, oh man, that was really, really soul stirring. I better do something about it. Maybe it's not a bad thing, actually. I think sometimes in America, we're too comfortable and we're too afraid of offending each other. We're too afraid of, I don't want to step on that person's toes, but sometimes we need to have a reality check, a stick warning. We need to get smacked in the head with something that says, okay, it's time to wake up and do something. So again, watch this presentation again if you want to. Share it like you've never shared before. We need to get more Americans to recognize what's happening in this country. Doesn't matter what, this wasn't a political discussion we just had. So it doesn't matter if you're left or right or center or libertarian, it doesn't matter. This is for all of us. We all have to come together as Americans and realize that the enemy is not the person with the different political beliefs across the aisle. The enemy are these much more powerful forces that are trying to engineer chaos and collapse and control over this country. So please share it. Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you're on Rumble, hit that thumbs up button. It helps us to reach more people. And all the links to buildtheark.com and a few other things, you can find those in the description below the show. So thank you. Take care. God bless. I'll see you next time.